Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome so much to our live stream. My name is Monica Rogers. I am VP of Growth Strategy here at CMB, and I'm delighted to be joined today by some really knowledgeable panelists from CMB, Adobe, and Microsoft. So to kick us off, I'm just going to provide a little bit of introductory context, and then we'll get right to Q&A. So the title of the live stream today is How to Combine AI with Human Intelligence to Up-Level Impact. And really the genesis behind this topic area, we all, I'm sure, been hearing so much about AI and attending so many different webinars and reading so many articles. This specific topic is really near to my heart and to our heart at CMB because we really see it as the way kind of forward in the industry. And see if I can get this slide to go. And in fact, CMB just launched last week at TMRE. Sorry we didn't get to actually be at TMRE to do that, but during that TMRE week, we launched our new capabilities called AI plus HI solutions. So when we think of artificial intelligence and human intelligence combined, we think of AI plus HI, and I'm excited that that is our topic today. So why AI plus HI, and why are we believing that is the path forward? There's a couple of kind of trends that are going on in the industry that are driving the need, not just for AI, but for AI plus HI to be our focus in insights. So the first one is really about spending. So when you look at marketing spending as a percent of total revenue, this is some data from Gartner about budgets, and it shows that basically marketing budgets are declining as a percent of total revenue. So this is putting a lot of pressure on all of us, right? I'm sure all of us have been feeling that over the last few years, to drive efficiencies. And what kind of efficiencies? Really, you look at how the resources are being allocated, and you'll see that that spending has continued to kind of to grow as a percent in the paid media, but spending's been relatively flat on headcount and on agency spending. And what that means is, since the spending is kind of not growing relative to revenue growth, that means that probably we're seeing smaller teams that we're working with and pressure to be more efficient there, right? And then agency budgets being maybe flat to declining, putting pressure on us to be efficient there. And that has changed insights teams. So when you look at that last chart, it's showing some data from Greenbook about the role of insights pros in organizations shifting towards an increase in in-house research and actually a decline in staff that are focused on strategic insights consultants and consulting. And so that brings up the question, right? Are we at a race to the bottom with AI, or are we looking as an insights teams to deliver more strategic value? I would argue all of us want to do the latter, right? Deliver more strategic value. And that's where I think AI plus HI becomes so critical to our profession and to the value that we bring to organizations. So I think in our Q&A today, we'll be talking about these three areas that we really see at CMB as ways to deliver strategic impact. The first bucket I'll call is proprietary insights, right? We want to deliver learning and insights that are proprietary to our organization that gives us competitive advantage. And that means using AI and our knowledge as insights pros together in a way to provide those new insights. The second area is around better strategic decision making, right? Gen AI has given us the capability to synthesize, to learn, and to prompt information from a much better integrated set of data. And there's opportunities to help us drive better strategic decision making from those kinds of capabilities. And then the third area is activation of insights. So think about, how do we get the insights in the hands of more people, informing more decisions that impact the marketplace, right? So these are three big areas where AI plus HI can make a big impact. So to talk about this more, I have a wonderful panel to introduce you to today. And the first is Girish Joshi, and Girish is the Consumer Insights Director at Adobe. He leads the team's efforts to understand all audiences that Adobe serves, from school children to Fortune 500 execs. So welcome, Girish.
Thank you, Monica. Good to see you.
Yeah. Next, I have Richard from CMB. Richard leads the product development and innovation team at CMB. he has led the development of both proprietary AI tools as well as the evaluation and onboarding of third-party Gen AI capabilities and ResTech platforms. So welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Monica.
Finally, Kajali leads the Microsoft Insights function, and her remit covers AI, subscriptions, gaming, search, devices, and OS. Big job there. And her team produces groundbreaking insights in terms of products and features created by engineering and marketed by the marketing team. So welcome, Kajali.
Excited to be here.
Thanks. All right, so I want to kick it off with a question about just a really broad question. So thinking about that strategic impact that we're trying to make, what AI applications are you guys most excited about right now and why? I'll start with you, Kajali.
I am an AI optimist, so I'm super excited. I know Girish and Richard, I know they'll talk about the kind of more strategic stuff, which is, connecting large data sets, using generative AI, synthetic audiences, all of that. So I'll talk about what I'm personally most excited about, and that is reducing the drudgery of everyday life. So the cognitive load that we encounter every day when we are dealing with 200 emails in our inbox, when we're dealing with knowing the answer but not being able to find the file that has the answer in it. Sometimes, I often say that if only Kajali knew what Kajali knew, because I have done over so many years in research and many years in Microsoft, I've pretty much encountered a very large set of problems. So I myself am a very large language model, but I don't have the ability to access it all at the same time. So I'm really hoping that that AI would help me access all of that. So I would say the things that I'm most excited about, and this is what you asked. It's a question you asked, which is about my personal excitement. It is really about reducing my cognitive load and accessing that part of my job that gives me the maximum amount of joy. We kind of have this saying that 80% of every job is drudgery and 20% is pure joy. I'm just hoping to expand that 20% to 80% and maybe reverse that ratio a little bit.
Great, thanks. Girish, how about you?
Well, I'm still kind of trying to get over thinking of Kajali as a large language model. That's kind of rocked my world this morning. Very cool. I'm not excited about any one single thing. What I think is really exciting is we don't actually know what's really going to be the killer apps for AI, which means what we can do is try out lots of different stuff, see what works, see what's promising. It's not often that you get to be in like a period of experimentation and discovery like we're in right now, but I'd be lying if I said I knew what the killer app is.
Yeah. Richard, how about you? What are you most excited about right now?
Yeah, I guess for us at CMB, I think there are a couple of things that we've been able to impact with AI that we're excited about. One is, we've had one lens on sort of improving research participant experience, either by helping them manage the cognitive load of doing research, or just making it more engaging, more interesting for them. And I think the biggest unlock for us has been around qualitative at scale, both the ability to capture qualitative at scale, sort of remove the walls between qual and quant a bit so that you can integrate or hybridize a bit. We're sort of excited about that and seeing some traction around that in our work. And of course, qual at scale requires AI on the other side as well. You need to be able to synthesize, summarize, make sense of the higher volumes of data that you're capturing. So I think those are the areas where I agree with Girish that, we don't know where the killer app is in the research space, but I think, we're getting some traction in places that seem to be making a difference.
I love what you both said about not being able to predict the future. And I feel with AI particularly, it'll be very important to not even try, but like work with it. Because I don't think anybody knows what the future is. It all depends upon, if you're an AI pessimist or an AI optimist is how you're predicting the future. And we just don't know. So the best way, kind of is to work towards making the future we want.
Yeah, I like that. I think That makes a lot of sense. And thinking about that, I think, where do you see the HI, the human intelligence piece, playing the most important role in our adoption of AI? What does that look like?
Well, so I think there's a couple of different dimensions to it. One is I'm 100% with Kajali in terms of one big opportunity space is reducing the drudgery that's in our jobs. Some of the promising applications that we're already having success with is things like, a desk research assistant. It's really, really good at that. Um, Richard mentioned like the mechanics of conducting research. It's surprisingly good at that. But in all of those cases, it really only works under guidance, right? Like the fundamental idea of pretty much any generative AI system is you prompt and then you refine the prompt and then you refine it some more. And how do you know what the refinement is? That's because as the human doing the prompting, you have the experience to be able to provide the guidance. So at least as far as we can see today, the artificial intelligence is going to need that human intelligence to guide it. It's not anywhere close to being fully autonomous. So I think it's kind of baked into the technology that the two have to go together.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I feel like artificial intelligence role is really kind of in enhancing human intelligence, not human intelligence role in like figuring out how to use AI. That's like, I think it's a smaller part of it. But I do think, Monica, I would kind of like put it in this way, sort of the way Girish was talking about, that the human being is necessary. But I think not only is it necessary, the human being is necessary to kind of lead the process as to like, I think Girish talked about it, prompt and refining the prompt, but even to figure out like, are these results correct? Are these the correct data sets that should be combined? Spurious and nonsense correlations, like are we making sure we are not making them? Because I think, yeah, human intelligence is going to be enhanced by artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence, in my mind, at least for now, is definitely a co-pilot. It's not the pilot, and it's definitely not autopilot, but it's a co-pilot.
Like that.
Yeah, I feel like, with and I think I'll frame this around third-party research tech that uses AI. I think the human element is the design, right? It's the tool choice and the design of the research exercises that make sense, that help our clients answer questions in more effective and more dynamic ways. That's the HI. And to me, that's the key ingredient. The tools, I don't mean to disparage the tools. I think tools are great at what they do, but you need to understand what they do and apply them in the right ways to get the impact that you need. So.
Great. I have a question here, and I'm curious if you guys might know the answer to this. It says, what do you think about multi-step reasoning systems like GPT 4-40-1 or 41?
I haven't, I'll confess, I haven't used it yet. Yes, there's a lot of excitement around that last month when it got released, but I kind of don't know. And what I've experimented with personally, it just seems like it looks like it's thinking, but I don't understand the nuts and bolts of it. So I'm hoping Girish or you all have some experience with it.
So I don't have direct experience with it. I'm also aware that Apple published a paper earlier this week questioning even the theoretical possibility of true reasoning being built into large language models. And there's a whole like way beyond my grade level discussion around large language models versus symbolic models and so on. But I kind of approach it from a very practical standpoint where I work for a corporation. I have a responsibility to help the corporation make good decisions based on that data and not take leaps of faith because they look cool. And so part of my job is using tools where there's evidence that they are trustworthy. And at this point, I don't think I can say that I trust any of these models to be trusted to do true reasoning. So I'm happy to experiment, happy to learn, as the technology evolves to take advantage of new capabilities. But what I think about reasoning systems like GPT 4-1 is I don't know yet that they live up to the labeling of reasoning systems.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Girish. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I'm not an expert either, but I think what I've seen some literature saying that we need to learn to prompt again based on the reasoning models because they will not respond as well to the elaborate prompts that we've been trained to devise in earlier models of the GPT. So yeah, I think in most areas, I'm an AI optimist. I would say when it comes to reasoning, I'm still a skeptic.
Well, I mean, Richard, the other point also is there's so much AI washing going around.
Yes.
So you have to be like really careful. Like I have the exact same role as Girish, and I think Monica, you said I manage the insights function. I actually manage the consumer insights function. We have very large commercial research body as well. I mean, that is literally our role to make sure we are kind of helping the company be AI first in using tools, but also not getting into this AI washing. Like it does seem to me like there's a lot of hype happening, which doesn't. I think you have a question later, Monica. I was looking through like the questions you were thinking about asking about like what advice we would have for like research suppliers. And my main advice is like don't AI wash. Like if you're really using AI, say you're using AI, but don't like just say you're doing machine learning that you always did, and just now it's like a nice cool label to have. That's the one thing I would avoid.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And in fact, that kind of does lead me to my next question, which is thinking about how you're piloting Gen AI enabled research solutions, or what is that looking for you guys right now? How are you thinking about piloting AI in your organizations as well?
So I can start. In our research and insights team, there are sort of three shared priorities, and two of those shared priorities I'll talk about. One is researching AI, which is my priority, which is kind of like making sure that all the research projects that we're doing around AI product value, AI marketing, AI messaging, AI audience, all of that is connected. So that is about how we're marketing AI. There's this other function which a dear colleague of mine, Robert Graves, he runs, which is about using AI. So he has a full system of, he's thinking about things like how to access all the information that we have in our hub, from there to actually having generative AI tools that we could actually do our first start of research with. So we can do, if you have 30 messages that a partner of yours wants to check, and you don't have the capacity, the time, the budget to do all of them, you could say, hey, I can test 5 things, but I can help you get down from 30 to 5 using a generative AI tool. So we're doing the full range of, the things I talked about, like accessing the full information that we have already in the system, all the way up to generative AI tools that can help us be that first audience that we can test a few things with before we go out.
The approach we're taking is to look at every individual step or every individual type of activity that someone needs to do and see if there's a possibility to experiment with making that better or more efficient by using an AI tool. So it's kind of like approaching it in a more atomic way rather than trying to create the one system to rule them all.
Yep.
I mentioned earlier that we've had a lot of success using AI assistants for doing desk research and sort of creating summaries with citations across multiple reports and documents. And the citations are obviously important because then if something looks surprising, you can investigate and reassure yourself about the credibility. So that's been very successful. And we're looking at whether we could take it one step further into data analysis. But part of what we're discovering through the process is how to build in steps to check the accuracy of the AI-enabled analysis. So that kind of starts to change the workflow. So that's been interesting. It's been really helpful to use AI as a writing assistant for researchers. How do you make your project briefs more concise and clear? Can you be clearer in your reporting? Like that's something which it turns out a lot of researchers benefit from having a little writing help in. So that's been super helpful. But you can take that one step further, and we're starting to think about can it actually help us get better at doing research designs and survey designs and making more streamlined discussion guides. So as we experiment with some things, that triggers new ideas. I think we're going to be in this phase of experimenting for the foreseeable future. At some point, we might start stringing things together into like actual workflows and systems, but right now it feels more practical to do it like one little task at a time.
Yeah,
for us-
Girish, after you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. I think at CMB we've been vetting dozens of tools, and we have sort of a pretty tried and true process, I would say, of sometimes taking on the risk of trialing ourselves in the form of research on research, where we often will pair up a traditional approach with an AI-based approach so that we can anchor the world we know against the world we're trying to learn more about. We're also keen to collaborate with clients. So we have a number of situations where we've taken tools where we've gained confidence through our own trials and work collaboratively with clients to apply them to research that they're interested in, sometimes with a co-funding model, so that we both benefit from the learnings that we can take away. I think we really want to make sure we validate at the respondent experience level, at the data level. So we always check with our respondents to see what it was like for them as well.
I think that those are some really great points, Richard. I think one of the things, and that's kind of like this whole approach that both you, Richard, and Girish talked about, which is trying to go step by step, is like so clever, because I feel we are just in so many things. As I look back on my career, and so many things that I don't think I've been very good at actually predicting the future. And so, but in this one, I feel especially so. So trying to go by step is, I think, like the only good way to go. So for instance, you would imagine that if you were to enhance your, say, sort of a user survey with AI, it might actually be very annoying for the respondent. But I think what might happen is, because the AI will be able to customize and be relatively unbiased, and I mean relatively unbiased, they will be able to ask questions that could actually enhance the respondents' experience of going through the survey. And I think these are the kind of things that I personally am learning that I wouldn't have expected, which is making me more, just more open to, kind of going step by step and not thinking about the final destination too much.
Yeah, I think it's been fun on my side to just experience some of these research. As a client, we've done some research on research for our marketing efforts, and it's been interesting to see. In some cases, having AI ask almost too many questions, too many prompts in a row, and like you said, creating that annoyance. Okay, we gotta adjust the model. We've got to think about how we're doing it. So getting to watch that learning in some of the internal testing, so that we're kind of ready to test with clients, so we're not providing those experiences on live projects, has been really great to watch and experience. And I think it's challenging because there's so many possibilities out there, right? There's so many different tools. So I know we each have a different lens here talking about the topic, and I'm curious about what, and particularly Girish and Kajali, when you think about what capabilities you're trying to bring in-house versus what capabilities you're looking for support from agencies. How are you thinking about that today? I'm sure it'll evolve over time, but what does that look like right now for you guys?
So Girish, I'll follow you. Why don't you start?
Okay. So the way we think about our role and a vendor's role is, we have in my team, we have a unique opportunity to translate a business need into a research objective, and a set of research data into simple, clear actionability for the business. That's something nobody else can do because we have the mix of research skills and being embedded in the business and access to information and conversation with executives that it's just impossible to have as a vendor. What we so we want to develop capabilities that help us do that better, right? And so anything that allows us to be better at that, whether it's an AI based tool or not, we want to try and adopt that. What we don't have the ability to do is really invest in the capabilities to execute research. And I mean execute research not in a mechanical way, but there's a lot of intelligence involved and expertise involved in execution, right? Things like, you know, developing a survey instrument that hits the sweet spot between the information you need and the information that people can actually give if you ask them questions. Like there's a lot of skill and experience involved in that. So I think those are things that can be dramatically enhanced by the use of AI, but we're not trying to develop that capability internally. Um, that's not our goal. And we would love it if our vendor partners became better using, and if they became better using AI tools, fantastic. Um, so that's kind of how we think about it. At the end of the day, it's AI is not an end in itself. It's technology that helps us get better at our objectives, and those objectives have not changed.
Yeah.
Girish, plus one to pretty much everything you said. I think in addition, maybe the one complementary thing I could add to your comments is, in R&I, we're really focusing hard on helping some marketing decision tools to be created. So one of them is I kind of mentioned that the saying that I was quoting, like if only Kajali knew what Kajali knew, but that also works for Microsoft at scale. If only R&I knew what R&I knew. So there's a bunch of tools which are like sort of synthesis and text tools that have been built. One is like just a hub chat, so you can go on R&I hub. So kind of, I would say overall, we are focusing on kind of developing and perfecting some tools that help us make some decisions. And I think suppliers are going to continue to be really important throughout the process. So we're having, on the one hand, we've built a lot of like synthesis and text tools. And this, on the other hand, we're building audience tools. One is like the kind of an audience assistant, and the second is like an insights assistant. But besides that, I don't think if I were a supplier, I would be nervous about losing business at all. But the thing I would do as a supplier, like you all are doing in CMB, is to figure out how you are using AI in making yourself a better research agency. That's the piece that I would focus on. Instead of, I think, when I talk to some market research professionals, I think they are really worried that their business will get impacted. And my advice back is always, your business will get impacted if you let it. You gotta start experimenting, and you gotta be. I think there's going to be a bit of a differentiation in the people who are using AI well and people who are kind of like not, who are just avoiding it, like thinking it's one of those waves that's going to pass. I don't think this one's going to pass. I think it's going to be a very, very important thing that will sort of differentiate great suppliers from good suppliers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very encouraged by what you said, because I think both of you, because I think CMB is occupying the lane where you expect an agency to be. I think, we're trying to learn and experiment. We think there's an inevitability to AI playing a significant role in our industry. And I don't mean that in a menacing way. I think it's exciting. So I think we want to be that partner who can bring an understanding and deliver some value using AI. We even feel some obligation to develop a point of view in areas where we might be skeptical. Like synthetic data is something that I have some skepticism around today. I don't mean I personally, but we representing CMB as a business, we think there's promise there, but nothing we've seen has made us feel like it's arrived. But we feel obligated to dabble and learn and experience so that we have a point of view and we can share it with clients who have interest.
Richard, exactly. I think, just philosophically, I would say it's regardless of whether one is an optimist or a pessimist, I think we should let neither of that get in the way of just the action of exactly what you all are doing, which is kind of examining them just as you would examine any tool, and like not letting fear or hope sort of get in the way of advancing your expertise.
Yeah, we have a slide we share sometimes with clients who we know are a little bit more skeptical about AI, where we talk about things like NLP and machine learning first, bubbling up in academia and then gradually being applied to business, and just sort of emphasize that track record we have as an industry in the insights world of, maybe being skeptical a little or afraid a little in the beginning, but having a tried and true method of testing, validating, identifying value propositions, and moving forward without putting respondents or our clients' IP at risk. And I think that's why I'm an AI optimist, because I feel like we've got the processes and the rigor to extract value from generative AI.
I think, Richard, that's an excellent point. And I would say that's a great tactic to use. It's like when people are just fearful of new things, in this case, AI, you can kind of remind them when they were, of something that happened in the past, and that just immediately reassures. But the other thing you can do is just like be open to being skeptical too, and just saying, here's the stuff that hasn't worked, and here's the stuff that has worked. So, I think we're using the word optimism in a as a value statement, and I kind of just want to be careful that we don't do that, because it's okay to be pessimistic, it's okay to be cautious, and it's okay to be optimist. The only thing that is not okay to be is being unwilling to try it out because of some reason, or jumping on the bandwagon just because you're an optimist. I mean, I think that's the one thing I want to stay away from, which is the value judgment. Like, let's just treat it like technology and let's just move ahead. I'm not a better person because I'm an optimist, about AI.
I think that's actually a really good point. I mean, and it's in our nature, I think, as insights professionals to have a level of skepticism. I mean, we've always played that role in our organizations, right? We've always been the kind of, hey, the level-headed, right, of the bunch. And I think that is a good thing, regardless of whether you might consider yourself optimistic or pessimistic. It's you need all of it, right? Just like you need all creative styles in an organization. It's all really helpful. I'm curious about kind of knowing that we've all dabbled, right? We're all applying things, and maybe we've made more progress in some areas versus others. Kind of like you mentioned with synthetic, Richard. Where are the areas where you see an easier glide path, and where are the areas where you've hit more obstacles that you think it might take a little bit more time or more iterations to get where you want to go?
I don't know about easier versus harder, but I think maybe the most impactful area for us right now, where that AI plus HI dynamic is most vivid, and manifested in our processes, is around sample quality. So using AI-based technologies to help us identify bots and other bad actors, both pre-survey and in-survey, but doing so in a multi-layered way that involves a lot of human intelligence, both in terms of setting thresholds of how aggressive you're going to be with blocking potential bad actors, down to individual evaluation of open ends that are bubbled up with the help of AI that you might have some doubt about. So I think it's a really robust area. It's an area that's very significant for our business in terms of risk. So it's exciting to have a new tool in the toolbox to help us in that area.
Girish, I'll wait for you to go next.
So I guess so far we haven't regretted any of our experiments with AI. So I'll kind of start from that, right? Even the ones that haven't turned out that well, they haven't turned out well in the sense that, well, we didn't achieved something amazing, but there hasn't been any business consequence, any negative business consequence of trying to do something with the help of AI. And that may be because we've been not taking undue risk, but whatever. So I kind of start from a place of I can be both optimistic and skeptical at the same time, right? Optimistic because I think we'll figure out a whole lot of valuable ways of using AI. Skeptical because we got to try it and make sure it actually works before we say it's worked. Um, the two places where I think there's both a lot of potential and probably it's going to be really hard to get to success is one is the data quality that Richard talked about. I think it's incredibly important. I'm increasingly, frankly, terrified about the quality of data that we get because of survey fraud in particular. And I think we need as many tools as we can. But frankly, I think the bad actors have a huge head start over us. So I think it'll take some time for us to catch up. The other is analysis. Um, our experiments with using AI in analyzing data have turned out to be the most challenging in terms of the amount of like checking and retraining that we need to do to get to something that ultimately is so far has been about as good as a human analyst could do, not necessarily better. And at least while we're figuring out how to do it, becomes inefficient because you're kind of having to do the work twice. So I think we kind of assumed that the first place that would become really good, really fast, really easy because of AI would be analysis. I think we're finding that it's turning out that that's actually the most challenging part of the entire research workflow. That's been our experience, at least.
Yeah, so that's really great to hear both of your perspectives. I think the piece that I would add is we also haven't regretted anything. I personally, as a researcher, haven't regretted a single instance of trying out AI because the things that have worked have been really helpful. The things that haven't worked, I've really learned a lot from. So, for instance, I think message testing is a crucial way in which AI assistants can really help us, especially narrowing down a very large number of stimulus that you might have, or helping you figure out what your discussion guide should be. So that's been a it's been a really great use of using AI. The challenge is sometimes if your description is too small, like if you have a quick tagline or something, those are a little bit harder with generative AI because they will always want a little bit more description. So you just start to understand the things it can and can't do well, or what its strengths and weaknesses are. In the same way you understand when you're doing focus groups, for instance, you understand consumers' desire to want to appear rational. So you kind of understand the biases in the traditional ways of doing research. In the same way, I have started to understand the biases in the AI tool using, the way in which we use our AI tool. So I would say that. And then the second thing I would say is that foundational stuff, where we're trying to figure out what a new market is like, for instance, or a new country is like, I think I would still go for the more traditional ways of doing the research. Like once I have enough data, then I'll be able to, I feel like the human intelligence would be able to figure out whether the stuff that we're generating out of AI is correct or not correct, or I would be able to understand if this analysis plan is correct or not correct. So where my human intelligence is limited, I don't think those areas I would be comfortable using AI yet.
Makes sense. There's been a ton of chatter, so I've been trying to catch up a little bit. One of the interesting comments that was made was, will synthetic data make more sense when we start to have more synthetic consumers? And then there's just been this whole chatter around, will we be having AI be doing things like buying things for us? And so I think that's what was kind of meant by that. But I don't know if you guys, have you had any thoughts about this kind of synthetic data, synthetic consumers, any additional? It seems to be getting a lot of interest from the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly AI will play a significant role in e-commerce. I mean, in some ways it already has in the form of machine learning and recommendation engines and things like that. But I'm sure we'll be using co-pilots to book flights and manage our time when we're not in a meeting to do something culturally interesting. And I see a huge upside to using AI in areas like that. And I think it's inevitable that it will have impacts, and not all positive impacts, in the way e-commerce works. I saw an article about sponsorship with Perplexity, and so answers might be elevated by mentioning sponsors. So I think there's a lot of room for the same kind of things that have happened in social, misinformation, misdirection, etc. But yeah.
I certainly don't feel knowledgeable enough to speak of the future that's far ahead. I kind of want to stick with what we are doing right now.
Yeah, that's fair. So we've talked about the optimism and the skepticism quite a bit in here. And, as long as you're trying, that's kind of a good path forward. But what about when you're dealing with others in your organization, right? You're trying to bring on these new tools, you're trying to experiment with these new things. What kinds of obstacles have you seen, if any, or what approaches have you taken? I know, Richard, you mentioned already, your approach to kind of talking to clients, but I'm curious, Kajali and Garish, if you have any other advice for folks in terms of how to help foster that experimentation in their organizations.
So and I suspect Girish might have the same situation, is we're in kind of like AI organizations, right? So we probably won't have a lot of people who are resistant to even the idea of using AI. So in this case, I'll just speculate a little bit and say, if I were in a different kind of an organization, maybe where classic tools have worked very well and they're like not AI first themselves, I would say I would start with the optimists, who are optimistic, not in the sense of having blind faith in AI and believing AI can solve everything, but are also maybe using a little bit of AI in their personal lives so they know that it makes mistakes. So that would be, if I were targeting as a supplier, that's the group I would target. I really wouldn't start with the skeptics or the pessimists, who are basically looking for ways to confirm their belief that this is not going to work. So I just wouldn't work with them, because it's just going to be an uphill battle that won't be worth it. So if we can have somebody who's optimistic, but also a little intelligent themselves in using AI, or willingness to have some mistakes along with, and I would, unless I was sure of my tool, that's how I would present my AI tool too. So I would target carefully. I don't think this is a case where you can go and convert, because you are learning too, so you can't convert them with saying this is perfect and I have full confidence. What if it doesn't work? Then so I would target my client partners very carefully.
I was talking to a colleague the other day who said that their organization is actually providing kind of like reward points for people to use Gen AI tools, even in their personal life or at work, for any topic, like to use the device that they've created internally, or the app they've created internally, just to get people comfortable with trying as a way to get started. I thought that was kind of an interesting approach.
Yeah, I think one of the people are going to find themselves using AI in their everyday life anyway, right? Because if you use Google, you get AI summaries at the top of your Google search results now. So you're using AI without even meaning to. I think that'll help take away some of the initial fear. I like Kajali said, like I work in a company which is a very AI oriented company. It's in our products. It's very much, uh, in the air that we want people to experiment and figure out how to make AI work for them. So if there isn't resistance in that sense, but there's also a very high awareness that if you're not careful, you could accidentally expose proprietary information. So there's also a lot of education happening on which tools to use, certifications, and so on. I'm sure that's not representative of the entire industry landscape. But I think, one thing that's always been true is people are interested in solutions to problems, right? And the problems, at least in the research space, are how do I get my research out the door faster? How do I get my insights back in faster and simpler? And can I do this all with a lower investment of resources? Like those are, problems we can trust will persist. So I think if we can find solutions to those, it kind of becomes less important whether the underlying technology is AI or not. That becomes secondary. Every time, like we were talking about synthetic data. Synthetic data puzzles me because I'm not sure what problem it solves. I have nothing against synthetic data. I just don't have a problem that it would solve. And so that's how I would think about driving AI adoption. Is really make it not about driving AI adoption, but figuring out how do we solve the problems that need solving.
So well said.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that might be the final line of today's live stream, Jarish. I think that is absolutely it, right? We're trying to solve problems and we're looking for ways to solve them. And we're all trying to think smart about how to help our companies make an impact out of the marketplace. And that's really what our jobs are about at the end of the day. And so we find the right tools, the right approaches to do that. And if you're not trying AI, you might miss out on something that might help you do any of those things. So I want to give an extra thank you again for your time today, Girish, Kajali, and Richard. This has been a really enlightening discussion. For those of you in attendance, I will work to try to get this recording posted out for all of you to have access to as soon as it's available. And if you have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. And we'll try to follow up with folks individually. Thank you again for your time. And if you're interested in learning about CMB and our solutions, you can go to the web address there at the bottom and take a look at that. We do have a new AI plus HI guide, which might also be a tool you can use to help sell internally in your organization the idea of being open to experimentation and trying new things. So hopefully that will be helpful to you as well. Thank you all for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.